Darius then went to Athens. He sent his son-in-law Mardonius to head the fight. But then something bad happened. 300 Persian ships were destroyed off the coast of Mount Athos, which was hit by a storm. The invasion was put off, and Athens was safe for now. The Athenians made good use of this break. They got ready with the help of Miltiades, a general who knew how the Persians fought from inside their own realm. The Athenians attacked first when the Persians landed at Marathon. 10,000 hoplites charged across the field, breaking through the enemy lines. When the dust settled, there were 6,400 dead Persians. Only 192 Athenians had died. The triumph at Marathon was amazing, and it shocked the King of Kings. Darius was furious. He wanted a second campaign. For 3 years, Asia had to deal with increasing taxes on soldiers, ships, and gold. But before revenge could be taken, there was a revolt in Egypt. Darius's condition got worse, even as he was ready for 2 conflicts. Darius the Great died in 486 BCE. His son Xerxes, who was born to Atossa, the daughter of Cyrus the Great, took over the kingdom. He now had the crown of revenge. At first, Xerxes was careful as he ruled. He put down the Egyptian insurrection without mercy, making the Nile kingdom's servitude more worse than it was under Darius. But he wasn't sure what to do about the Greeks. He still thought about Marathon, and it felt that the strength of his kingdom would be better used elsewhere. But Mardonius, his cousin and most valued advisor, kept pushing him. He said that Greece ought to be punished. Finally, Xerxes consented. The Greek city-states, which had been at odds with each other for a long time, could feel the storm approaching. They came together this time. Sparta, Athens, Thebes, and Thespiae made a weak alliance. They chose the heated gates of Thermopylae, a short passage along the coast where mountains meet the sea, as their battleground. The number of Persia's army wouldn't matter much at that bottleneck. Leonidas, the king of Sparta, was in charge. With him were 7,000 hoplites. 300 of them were Spartans who had sworn to battle to the death. Before the fight started, Xerxes sent messengers to tell them to give up. He told Leonidas to put down his weapons. The Spartan king's answer became famous: "Come and take them." The Greeks held the queue for 3 days. Their phalanx was attacked by waves of Persian infantry, cavalry, and even the famous immortals. With their shields locked and spears pushed, the defenders turned the tiny pass into a wall of bronze. Leonidas and his 300 always fought in the front. Their discipline bought time for all of Greece, but betrayal ruined Thermopylae. Ephialtes, a Greek shepherd from Malis, knew of a secret mountain path that went around the pass. He told Xerxes because he was greedy and scared. The Persians marched through the hidden route, which was on the sides of the defenders. Leonidas sent most of the allies home when he found out about the betrayal. The only people left were the Spartans, Thespians, and a few Thebans. They fought until the end, even when they were surrounded. The Persians took Leonidas's body after he was shot with arrows and spears, but his death gave Greece time, and his defiance offered them hope. Ephialtes, the traitor, didn't survive long enough to enjoy his reward. His fellow Greeks hunted him down and killed him for betraying them, but the harm was done. The Persians surrounded the defenders of Thermopylae as they walked along the mountain road. Leonidas sent the allies away, but he and his 300 Spartans stayed. The Thespians stayed with them and refused to go. They fought until the last soldier fell, even though they were surrounded on all sides. They lost the pass, but their sacrifice gave Greece a lot of time. Though it was called a defeat, Thermopylae was really a win in spirit. The water brought new hope, even though the mountains were covered in Spartan blood. The Greek navy gathered off Artemisium. There were 120 ships from Athens, 40 from Corinth, 20 from Megara, and smaller ships from friendly states. Eurybiades, the Spartan admiral, was in charge, while Themistocles of Athens was the real strategist. The Persians sent wave after wave of ships to destroy the tiny Greek navy, but it looked like the gods were on Hellas's side. A tremendous storm hit the sea and destroyed 200 Persian ships before the conflict even started. The Greeks held on, but Themistocles knew the tide couldn't be stopped forever. Themistocles took a hard choice because he saw calamity coming. People left Athens. People were moved to the island of Salamis. Families, kids, and old people were taken across the sea, leaving the city empty. If Athens fell, it would be empty, but its warriors would fight with all their hearts. 5 months after Thermopylae, the fleets fought again at the narrow straits of Salamis. The Persian fleet was much bigger than the Greek fleet, but Themistocles had set up his trap. He tricked the huge Persian ships into the bottleneck by pretending to retreat. They were easy targets for the quick Greek triremes, since they were cramped and couldn't move. The scene, the straits turned into a graveyard for damaged hulls and oars. Greek rams tore through Persian decks, men jumped into the water, and flames lit up the night. By morning, Xerxes had lost the main part of his navy. His dream of destroying Greece was dashed on the rocks of Salamis. The win was big, but not the end. Persia still had a huge force on Greek soil, which was brought in by land. The Greeks had won their sea, but the struggle for their home was far from over. The Plains of Plataea were the last big test ahead. After losing badly at Salamis, Xerxes gave up on his campaign and went back to Persia. He left his cousin and trusty general Mardonius in charge of the large Persian army that was still camped on Greek soil. Mardonius marched south and took over the empty remains of Athens. Themistocles was smart enough to get people out of the city before the battle. They were safe on the island of Salamis. The Greeks, on the other hand, recognized this wasn't a win yet. Freedom itself hung in the balance as long as Persian boots were on their land. Pausanias of Sparta was chosen to lead all Hellenic armies, and a new alliance of city-states was formed under Spartan leadership. Winter was coming. Mardonius knew that a campaign during the winter would be a disaster, therefore he moved his army to Thebes. The Thebans, who had hated Athens for a long time, openly sided with Persia. This would cost them a lot in the years to come. When force failed, Mardonius sought to convince them. The Greeks were offered terms of peace and big prizes if they broke up their weak coalition, but the allies stayed strong. Together, they decided to face Persia with steel instead of words. Their soldiers marched towards Plataea, while their ships proceeded to Mycale. 2 fronts, 1 goal: to force Persia out of Greece for good. The Greeks built up their camp on high ground at Plataea. Their hoplite phalanxes were full with spears and stacked shields behind stake walls. Mardonius shot volleys of arrows and sent his cavalry charging, but the Greek formations held strong. Spears went right through armor, shields were locked tight, and arrows bounced off bronze without hurting it. The fight appeared to go on forever at one point. The plain was covered in dust, horses yelled, and lines of people surged and fell back with no clear winner. Then fate changed. In the middle of the tumult, a Spartan named Leonidas killed Mardonius. The Persian commander fell dead on the battlefield, and the morale of his army perished with him. The Persians became confused. Their lines fell apart, and they panicked. Pausanias took advantage of the situation and ordered a counterattack. The Greeks charged on and ripped into their disorganized enemies. The Persians were killed as they tried to escape the field, which turned into a massacre. The Greeks had won on the fields of Plataea. The Hellenic fleet, led by Pausanias, fought the Persians off the coast of Mycale, far from the land conflict. The Persian resistance was formidable at first, and their fleet held up against wave after wave of Greek onslaught. But the tide of war, which had already changed at Plataea, was about to change again on the sea. The tide of the sea battle changed at Mycale when an Athenian fleet led by Leonidas came to help the Greeks. Their presence changed desperation into determination. The Greeks pushed hard against the Persian ships with unprecedented might. The fight was violent, and the lake was full with broken wood and the moans of the dead. The Persians soon gave up. The ships that weren't sunk or burned right away turned around and raced away, crossing the water back to Sardis and Lydia. Their navy, which used to be big and scary, had been destroyed. At that moment, the Persian threat to mainland Greece was over. What was left was independence, which was not won by luck, but by the hard work, sweat, and blood of all Greeks working together. It was 479 years before the Common Era. Herodotus was only 5 years old. He would have heard unbelievable stories of bravery as a child, like those of the Spartans at Thermopylae, the Athenians at Marathon, and the miraculous victories at Salamis, Plataea, and Mycale. He would have thought about how and why men did such things and what made them do them. Years later, he would have his own chance to fight against oppression. Herodotus was 30 years old and living in Halicarnassus when he joined his fellow citizens in a revolt in 454. Lygdamis, the cruel ruler who had killed Herodotus's uncle years ago, was deposed. Herodotus was free, much like his birthplace, after being exiled. Herodotus helped colonists build Thurii, a new Greek city in southern Italy, around the year 450. There he would dwell, writing, traveling, and improving the magnificent work that would live on after him, the histories. Athens may have known he was there too, as throngs gathered to hear him tell stories about kings and queens, battles and miracles, people and cultures from the boundaries of the known world. One of the crowds may have included the father of a youngster named Thucydides in it. While Herodotus read, the kid cried, and the older historian turned to the father and remarked, "Your son's soul longs for knowledge." It came true, as Thucydides would become the next great historian, strict and exact, partly because of the road Herodotus had opened. Herodotus passed away between the years 425 and 413. He didn't leave behind any armies, monuments, or a monarchy. He left behind memories after memories that were written down. For 2,500 years, his histories have been repeated and retold, but they always tell the same story. He was the first to inquire not only what happened, but also why.